We begin with breaking news. A 6.4 magnitude earthquake struck Albania just a short time ago, not far from the capital, Tirana. Health officials say at least 140 people have been injured. And journalist Blendi Sala of our affiliate, A2, joins me live on the line from the capital. So good to have you with us. Talk to us about the situation on the ground there. Do you know of any of the injuries and any casualties and damage as well?
Well, good morning, Rosemary. It's been a horrible morning here in Albania. People have been screaming and they've been hurt. We know of at least one casualty that's been confirmed, but we suspect there will be more because we've had buildings collapse. And now we've got rescue teams going to the site and trying to pull people out from wreckages. It's an incredible sight to see, whole buildings have come down. Half of them are still standing, and half of them is still, on the ground. And you can see people's rooms as an exposition as to what their lives were before this earthquake. We know of this 6.4 magnitude earthquake. It happened at around, it was just before 4 o'clock in the morning. So it was before dawn, and it was dark, and then everybody kind of ran out of their buildings. The epicenter has been by the Adriatic in the city of Durres. That's about 20 miles from the capital of Tirana to the west, and we know of at least 300 people who have shown up at area hospitals. There's a lot of rescue teams going all over the place. Another place that was hard hit was the town of Suman. This is 30 miles north of Tirana. And there were at least 20 families that are suspected to be under the collapsed buildings in Suman. So it's been, a tough morning here in Albania. People are scared. Schools have been called off for the center of the country, the areas that are most affected. So it's been very tough.
And Blendi, as you've been speaking to us on the phone, we've been looking at these pictures coming into us. We see first responders there on the scene. We see the police and many people, and we see many people underneath the rubble. So talk to us about access to earth-moving equipment. What is the situation with that?
Well, they are trying to, first of all, they're trying not to move the equipment first because they want to see if there's people under those wreckages and trying to pull those, they're trying to talk to those people. They can hear screams, they can hear children. And other people who have been stuck underneath them. So they're not using the equipment just yet. But in those collapsed buildings where they know that there's nobody inside or where they don't hear calls from the inside, then they've been trying to move some of this wreckage and debris that's been falling, on top of those buildings there. So, there's been a series of earthquakes this morning. The last shake was just seconds ago. And that lasted for about 15 minutes. So the situation is not yet stable, and people are trying to do their best. There's a lot of solidarity. There's people who've shown up at area hospitals to try and give blood and to be there for whatever help might be needed. So you got the police out. You got 300 members of the armed forces of the Albanian army who have gone to the scenes and trying to rescue those people. But you got to remember, it's just dawn here. It was dark before, so it was hard to see. And in the city of Durres, there was no electricity as because of the earthquake. So it's been kind of tough to communicate and to have those, lines of connection set up. Thank God we've been using, cell phones and all that. That's been working fine. So that's why you get those images from A2.
Right, and of course, as you're speaking to us, we're looking at these pictures. We are seeing some earth-moving equipment there and extensive damage, it has to be said. Certainly in the building we're looking at there, but to the left of it, there's a building completely intact.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the structures there in Western Albania and how some would withstand a 6.4 and others wouldn't.
Yeah, well, we had another earthquake that was in September 21st. We had the strongest earthquake that I'm 40 years old. I had seen nothing like it. So we thought, okay, that's it. It takes a long time for another earthquake to build up and all that energy has been released. So we were not expecting another earthquake in almost exactly 2 months. It's only been 2 months and 3 days since the last one. And this was stronger. This was longer. And it was even, harder in magnitude. Now, the first one caused little damage, I mean, almost no damage at all. And it was kind of reassuring that the systems and the buildings are okay. Like in Tirana, we don't have any, and that's not very far from the epicenter there in Durres, but we don't have any buildings collapse here. I mean, there was damage to my own apartment. I had a little bit of cracks in the walls, and my books flew off the shelves, but nothing to speak of, and it was scary. We had to take the kids out of the house this morning at 4 a.m. and put them in the car. Then we felt safer in the car. At least nothing can fall on top of you. But I mean, some of these buildings, they're older buildings. They've been built during communism era, probably in the 60s and the 70s, and it looks like they were in need of maintenance. But a stronger and newer construction has shown no damage so far. So except for these 2 or 3 in that area, the rest of them have been okay, at least in the capital. Now, keep in mind that in Albania, people have been building, a little bit out of control, and a lot of these buildings maybe went up without having proper specialists and architects work on them. So some of them are expected to collapse if something like that happened. But we had never seen anything like this since 1926. The hardest one that was compared to this, and none of us were alive at that point. It was a very long time ago. We can't remember anything like this in our lifetime.
And you can see the concern on the faces of those people on the ground there. It is a real worry for them. And as you mentioned, one person was killed. We're getting confirmation from Albania's president. Indeed, one person confirmed dead. It is early yet. We know from the health minister that 140 people have been injured, and we will continue to follow this story very closely. Blendi Salah joining us there on the line from Tirana, Albania. Thank you so very much. We turn now to our meteorologist, Karen McGuinness, who brings us up to date on the situation. And Karen, we were looking at some footage when we had a journalist on bringing us up to date on the situation on the ground, and it is extensive damage.
It is extensive damage, and when we first heard about the 6.4 magnitude earthquake, it is not considered a major earthquake. It is considered a strong earthquake. Now, you're looking at some video, this coming from A2 TV. This is Albanian television, and there you can see some extensive damage. There was severe shaking. This is not a 7.0 magnitude earthquake, but just from looking at how the terrain was across this region, it almost looks like a cadaver dog, or it was hard to tell from my vantage point what that was. But they are absolutely looking to see if there are any people who are trapped. There are reports coming from there. We saw reports initially from social media, and now we're seeing the video coming out of Albania. This happened about 20 to 25 kilometers just to the west of Tirana, which is the capital. And you can imagine just how people have become quite shaken up from the 6.4 magnitude. It was also 20 kilometers deep. Now, what I'm also seeing as far as aftershocks, what we've seen are 5.0 and 5.3 magnitude aftershocks. Now, typically you wouldn't even feel that, but across this region you become hypersensitive. Anytime there's an earthquake, you become hypersensitive to any kind of shaking. This happened at about 4 o'clock local time in the morning. So this happened when people were in their homes, in their sleep, and to be jolted out of your bed, perhaps to hear homes around you crumbling or crashing is very upsetting, very disturbing. So a lot of people out in the street. It is this tiny area where we've seen the bulk of the damage, the worst of the shaking, and they're estimating the damage to be between 100 million and about 1 billion, and perhaps the number of fatalities between 10 and 100. I know that's a wide number, but already, just shortly after this earthquake, already one fatality and a number unaccounted for right now. Back to you, Rosemary.
Yeah, and Karen, we're just getting word from the police there in Tirana, Albania, that 3 people are now confirmed dead. And this is the worry in the wake of an earthquake like this. As you say, 6.4 doesn't appear to be such a strong earthquake. There are a lot of variables that come into play there. But at this point, 3 people confirmed dead. Karen McGuinness, many thanks to you, bringing us up to date on the situation.